Welcome back to the Doug Karns program here on All Noise Radio. 267-495-4866 is the phone number. You can leave us a voicemail at any time you like during the day, and if it's good enough, we'll play it on the air. Or you can email us at dougkarnsprogram@gmail.com, or go to our Facebook page. It's at facebook.com/DKprogram, facebook.com/DKprogram. And if you like us, you'll get all the news updates and when there's a new show and what we're talking about. So go right ahead right now and do that. All right, we're here with AJ Bruckner, and we're finishing up with Rick Santorum. As you all know, I've been a Rick Santorum supporter of any of these candidates because some of them are big government, some of them are not government enough. So I thought I found that happy medium with Rick Santorum. But his comments lately have kind of bothered me because, as you know, I'm not a big government regulator kind of guy. And I don't think you are either, AJ.
Not at all.
Yeah. So we'll play this. He had an interview with theblaze.com, and he kind of goes somewhere where I don't like it, where he says we kind of need regulators, and I just don't agree with it. So let's roll it here, and we'll come back and talk about it.
Good cop, bad cop.
Let's take a look.
All right, Senator, you got a little bit of a good cop, bad cop thing going on here. You have a sales pitch to do to some conservatives, and I'm one of them. So the criticism at a 30,000-foot level is that you're a big government conservative. What do you say to that?
I'm not a libertarian. Okay?
Okay, I think I knew that about
Boo.
Rick, but at heart, I'm a libertarian. And as you know, AJ, and a lot of people won't agree with this, in a perfect society, I would actually have everything legalized. Drugs, everything, prostitution, because I think the person should have the personal responsibility enough not to do any of those things.
But did you hear the way he said that? I'm not a libertarian. Like it was something bad.
Like it's
to be
like something
ashamed
nasty.
of.
No.
Yeah.
Our founding fathers were libertarians.
Listen, I'm not a libertarian. Come on now.
Yeah. I mean, this country was founded on libertarianism and how you should have the freedom to do what you want unless you're hurting somebody or affecting somebody else's life. That's when you don't have the right to do something. But if it doesn't do any of that, just go right ahead. Do whatever you want.
Yep.
If you want to sell your body for money, then go ahead. That's your choice. I'm not going to stop you.
But we got to stop people from doing drugs. I mean,
yeah.
It hurts them.
And you know what? Making drugs illegal, that's totally stopped people from doing drugs.
Yeah. I mean, I've never seen anyone do drugs because it's illegal.
Never.
So.
Yeah, it's totally illegal, and they're afraid to do it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're afraid of the consequences of going to jail and stuff.
Yeah, and so they just don't touch the stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, actually, that's not really the case at all because
not so much.
There's tons of people doing drugs, and there's actually cartels that drive business off of just selling illegal drugs.
I'm pretty sure that's Mexico's economy.
Yeah, that's pretty much 99% of their economy. The other percent is tacos.
And tourists.
Tourists.
Tourism,
To the one city of Cancun. And
yeah, I mean, that's...
I mean, I love to vacation in Mexico City every once in a while.
You're safe on the coast. Just don't go 10 miles inland.
Yeah. But again, I'm a libertarian at heart. Now, I know these ideas don't work yet because if we just legalize drugs now, I think we would have a whole another issue on our hands. But one day I would like to see where we don't really have laws against the freedom of doing something. If you want to get high on heroin and ruin your life, then that's your right. I'm not going to stop you, but you can't come crying to me because you're stuck in a ditch from doing heroin the last night and say I deserve something. No, I'm sorry. That's what you chose to do.
Or abuse the emergency response system as 911 and have an EMS crew come out to you every night and pick your butt up off the ground because you're high and had an overdose. And
I'm sorry. You're exactly right, Age. You don't deserve the help because you know the consequences of doing heroin.
Mm-hmm.
Because you see it, and that's the other thing about. I know we're going off a tangent. We'll come back to Rick Santorum, but if people did drugs out in the open, you would see the side effects. You would see people, freaking out of their minds, laying on the ground, cold, shivering. Like, I don't think I want to do that. But you hide it so people are curious. They're like, oh, I'm going to try it. And, then they get hooked on the heroin or crack cocaine or whatever. So if it was out in the open, I think this is just my theory, and people always think I'm crazy. But I would think people would do it less because it would be out in the open more. You'd be stepping over somebody's, heroin-addicted body on the ground shivering. You know what I mean? Now, that's an extreme case, but I'm just saying you would see the side effects more than being in a cold dungeon basement and doing drugs.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. Yeah, we could go on that for an hour.
I
don't
know
know if I necessarily
see your
agree
face
with
right now. You
everything.
totally don't agree with me.
No,
but-
I don't know about doing it in public.
No. I'm not saying doing it in public, but I'm just saying.
The idea of people.
Yeah, you're in somebody's house. Like I go over your house. You're a heroin addict, so I go over your house and I watch you do it. I'm like, that doesn't look.
I gave it up years ago, Doug.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm saying when you did it,
Yeah.
I would come over your house and I would see the craziness that would go on when you did it. I'd be like, that doesn't look like fun to me. I don't know how that is fun, and it would drive me from not doing it.
I thought. All right, never mind.
So, anyways, because we have laws against public drunkenness and all that stuff. I don't think people should be out in the public, doing drugs or
But if that's something you want to do in your house and you want
You have the right to
you
do
want to
it.
die from
Yeah.
it, why?
You have the right to do
Who
it.
is the government to say that's not good for you? You shouldn't do that.
Exactly. That's the same. It's on. Actually, if you're gonna think I'm crazy, but it's on the same level as the government telling you what fatty foods not to eat. It's the same thing. Like if you want to eat fatty foods, get fat, obese, and die from it, then that's your choice.
Yep. But that's we don't have that anymore. You don't have the freedom to succeed or the freedom to fail. It's just
All right.
they attempt to make it freedom.
Okay. So, anyways, we got off on a
All right.
tangent about libertarianism. Me and AJ can go on for years about being a libertarian, but let's get back to Rick Santorum. He kind of talks about. I thought he was less for regulations than he is, but he goes on here. So let's listen.
I mean, the big government stuff comes from the libertarian end of the the Ron Paul folks. Oh, I've never voted for this. Yeah, he never votes for anything. But government needs to function. I mean, he doesn't vote for defense budgets. He doesn't vote for anything. The bottom line is the government needs to function. There is a role for the government to play in our society with respect to national security, with regulating the marketplace.
Okay, so I agree with him. It's there for security, but not for regulating the marketplace. That's why we're in this problem in the first place. You're regulating. You're picking winners. You're saying who can do something, who can't. And it's the big progressive idea from Teddy Roosevelt where, you have to not let a company get so big where you have to actually stop them from doing something. And you have to regulate the market where you can actually hurt a business by doing that. Like, just let the business run. If the business fails, it fails. If it gets too big, it gets too big. And I've talked about it on this program before because people were always like, well, not having monopolies is a good thing. Okay. I see your point where you don't want somebody jacking up the price. Let's just, the classic thing is oil.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want somebody jacking up the price of oil because they have a monopoly on it, right?
Yeah.
Which kind of what OPEC is doing anyways. But back in the early 1900s, it was Standard Oil and Rockefeller, and they thought he was going to get too big, so they had to regulate him. Now, AJ, if you would overprice oil so much that people couldn't afford it, because that's their claim, is a monopoly would jack up the prices so nobody can't afford anything, or it costs them way too much.
Mm-hmm.
Now, would they be bringing in money if people aren't buying as much oil?
Obviously not.
Okay, so now this is the crazy libertarian in me. It says the free market regulates itself. So if people aren't buying as much oil and they're not bringing as much profits in, what is that company going to do?
Lower the prices.
They're going to lower it so more people can buy the oil and afford it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's this ebb and flow. It might go back up again, and then all right, we're going to have to drop the prices down again.
I think the government should step in and set a price, and that's how the market should follow. Cause,
they totally should, because you've seen them do it with the farming industry, and the farming industry is so healthy right now that they have all these set prices for milk and dairy products, eggs, everything. That the farming industry is booming, except for it's not, because it's struggling and they need subsidies every single year from the government because they can't hit those prices that the government sets for it.
I think they said recently that the average age of an American farmer is 58 or something, late 50s, and they said it's just going to continue to grow and grow until there is no average. No one's farming. I mean, we have no farmers. So
this country was raised on farms. Like this is what we did. We just rely on so many factories now for food. that once we lose farms, it's going to be a very scary. And then, God forbid, something bad happens to where we go back to a how should I say it? Industrial revolution stage, where we actually have to depend on local farms. It's not going to work.
You're crazy.
I know, I'm crazy for talking about that.
You're nuts.
Sorry for me for bringing up, just asking to be prepared about it.
No, you're nuts. You're absolutely nuts. I don't even want to hear what your argument is.
All right, back to Rick Santorum.
Not with over-regulating the marketplace, but we have to have some level of government regulation to establish them.
Again, no regulation, just nothing on the free market. You shouldn't be regulating anything. That's why it's called the free market. The only thing government should have their hand in is enforcing law of. Like, the only time the government should get into the free market is if a CEO or some other company is breaking a law that's hurting somebody or something like that. That's when they should get involved and be prosecute that person. If they're doing something illegal, then that's what they should get involved in. Anything else, then no, you don't regulate anything. And this is my problem with Rick Santorum, because desperate times call for desperate measures, and 15 years ago, this kind of talk is fine. I don't think anybody cares. But our economy is so fragile right now that any more regulation or any kind of regulation that we just keep enforcing, it could crash to just like Hoover did back in the 1920s, where Coolidge and Harding took the government out of the economy pretty much by 80% and let the free market work itself out. That's why we had the Roaring 20s. And then Hoover comes in and inserts the government back into it, and we had a big crash. And this is what happens when we had the government get involved.
No, you missed the whole. It's because the banks got really big, and they just took all the money from the American people, and they crashed the market on purpose. And FDR came and saved the day.
And I laugh with the Occupy movements, where
we are the 99%.
I laugh at the Occupy movements where they're all upset with the banks about all this money that they're in debt for college, but they never realize why colleges are so, why they cost so much. I mean, college costs over the last 20 years have gone up 500%. And there's really no reason to. They don't supply. It's not that they don't give you books. You have to buy your own books. They don't give you anything but the teacher or the professor. And I guarantee you, the $40,000 a year that the average college student pays for a semester or for a year, take that and times that by 100,000 at like Penn State. They have $32 billion in Harvard's endowment that are just sitting in the bank that nobody's touching. Why aren't you protesting the colleges? And the banks never forced you to sign those loans. You said, hey, I want a college education. I'm going to sign for these loans.
Well, they do valuable things like, what was that, New York? One of the New York colleges. They were holding a...
Columbia?
Possibly. But they were holding a 99% class on how to protest during, the heart of the Occupy movement a few months ago.
To bring down capitalism.
Yeah, Francis Fox Piven was there, and they were, describing exactly...
My listeners remember Francis Fox Piven.
And, they taught, everyone how to, occupy.
All right, we'll be right back after this.